Item 11, which is Safer Harlow Partnership Funding, which Councillor Charles, I think you are proposing, and Councillor Brown, you are seconding. Councillor Charles, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Tonight, the Council has taken the decision to allocate a further £80,000 in funding to support activity to tackle antisocial behaviour and crime. One of the reasons for this decision is a two-way conversation that the Council and local senior officers have had about the issues that this town faces. Now, of course, crime in Harlow, if you talk to the police, has come down if you look at the statistics, but no one is complacent about the challenge that we face. That is why, working with Superintendent Timothy Tubbs, Inspector Leanne Archer, and our relatively new District Commander, Jenna Mornington-French, we've come up with this idea to empower a vehicle called the Safer Harlow Partnership. Now, the Safer Harlow Partnership is formed of partners, whether it be Essex County Fire and Rescue, the Council itself, the police, probation, voluntary community groups, and our health partners to tackle the root causes of antisocial behaviour and crime. Just as a focus for the discussion, the key priorities for the Safer Harlow Partnership this year are acquisitive crimes. That includes issues around shoplifting, which I know is an issue for many residents. It also includes county lines, serious violence, and violence against women and girls, and domestic abuse. Those themes, coupled with the action themes that we've set out in the report, aim to strike at those who have a negative impact on our community. So, for example, we're looking to fund early interventions to divert first-time offenders, young people that have been involved in gangs, away from crime. Looking at technological innovations, so whether that be technology that helps blue light services on the ground to deal with the operational reality that they face. Responding to hotspot areas, you will have seen the police action in the Stowe and in the town centre to deal with specific issues. We want to fund further high visibility patrols. All of this put together under the governance mechanisms of the Safer Harlow Partnership, we believe and are confident that we can strike out against criminal networks and those who feel it's okay to wage a war of antisocial behaviour on their communities. I'll just end by saying that, look, the way the Council has funded this is through a reserve budget. I think it is right to use funding where we can make maximum impact. Of course, we will come back to colleagues in this Council to report on the impact of this fund and how it's delivered through the Safer Harlow Partnership and its governance mechanisms. But I think this is a great opportunity for the Council to deliver greater impact with its partners and to make sure that we put community safety at the forefront of everyone's minds. Thank you, Chair.
Very good, thank you very much. We kick off with any questions. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you, Councillor Charles, for this report and just put some meat on those bones. The most recent data I can find shows a 17% fall in antisocial behaviour incidents in Harlow, which is great news and a real tribute to the police, to our own community safety team, and all the work that's being led under your good self. Just in terms of the report, I'm interested to know a bit more about the technological innovation element of it, whether there are any types of technology that perhaps have been funded through this previously that you might have in mind. I know that it's looking for technologies that perhaps not already routinely used within Harlow for crime prevention. Are there any steers you'd give interested groups on what kind of thing is in mind for that?
Thank you, Chair. Very good question, Councillor Gunn. And one of the elements to this that's informed the technological innovation element is the Council has previously funded an open gate technology. Open gate is a system that can be used, it's been used in the town centre and in the train station to detect people that are carrying metal objects, namely knives, and has had some success in catching people that are carrying knives in the town. One of the other elements to this, which I know is in everyone's e-post bag, is areas, communities in our wards where there is suspected criminal activity. Now, that can include the use of CCTV provision. It could also include technology like mobile ANPR cameras, which I know are a useful tool used in other parts of the country to catch serious organised crime. It's quite open about what types of technology can be used as long as they meet the requirements of policing and a community safety audit. What I would also say is that they have to meet the operational reality on the ground, and part of that is associated with the priorities that I set out for the Safer Harlow Partnership. So we would welcome, of course, bids into this fund that focus on technology that do strike out against elements of antisocial behaviour and crime in local communities. This is about maintaining a robust response, and that's the steer. I wanted to give more of an overview and a steer of where we're looking at for tackling these sorts of issues, but we welcome new ideas because we don't always have the answers.
Yep.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Charles is well aware of an estate within my ward that's been targeted by acquisitive crime, vehicle theft. So the question I would have, and I should say I know that's also a concern in other parts of Harlow, including in his own ward and in others, is there an opportunity for residents groups, residents associations, where they've seen high levels of acquisitive crime to bid for this funding, or would they be better advised to work with the police directly to try and find solutions?
It's a really, again, another good question. One of the other elements to this is that communities could look to bid into all three of these areas and combine them into one single project in their community to tackle antisocial behaviour and crime. I would advise them to approach either the police or another partner organisation in the Safer Harlow Partnership to enable them to make that bid. Clearly, I'm aware of the issues in your own ward in Staple Tie. There is a separate CCTV summit coming later this year that's going to look at specific communities where we do need to focus on how we can drive out those antisocial and criminal elements. So what I would say, this is the first step with this fund. There'll be other proactive steps coming later this year, specifically looking at CCTV provision as a form of enforcement.
Councillor Pearce.
I've got three very short questions. So, how will the proposed funding specifically target the increase in antisocial behaviour noted in the report? This next one is, how will the success be monitored and evaluated over the 2-year period? And is the current contribution from the council sustainable, or will further contributions be needed?
Councillor Charles.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. The first question on hotspot areas. The way that hotspot areas will be allocated is based on policing data. So where we've had situations in the Stowe where there's specific data to attribute a response to antisocial behaviour and crime, the evidence-led approach that we will adopt will be married up to those hotspot areas. That's why we also then focused on the town centre as a hotspot area as well. And it links with an operation that the police deploy called Operation GRIP, which is specifically dedicated to dealing with hotspot areas of antisocial behaviour and crime. So anything like that will be based on the evidence. Clearly, if residents want to approach partner organisations about specific hotspots, they are entitled to do so. In terms of monitoring success, there are specific ways that the Safer Harlow Partnership do that. The first thing that the Safer Harlow Partnership will do every single year is a strategic assessment. A strategic assessment, again, based on data, but on priorities that are a mix of different partners and what their view is on crime and antisocial behaviour, and more broadly community safety. That strategic assessment then informs the priorities that I've already articulated. And then there is an annual report that details the impact that the Safer Harlow Partnership has delivered. So we're using the governance mechanisms, the yearly reporting cycle, the Safer Harlow Partnership, to make sure that we articulate to residents what the impact is and how that will be achieved. This is about empowering the Safer Harlow Partnership to have a bigger say in some of the community safety issues that we have to confront in the town. The last point around the contribution, at the end of the report you will probably have seen that the council reserves the right to review where the funding situation is at the end of the funding period. If there is funding left over, I doubt there will be, because I think there are a number of priorities that we want to fund around antisocial behaviour and crime. There is a clawback facility that the council can then return that to its reserve budget, but we will go through the governance mechanism of the Safer Harlow Partnership to ensure that any contribution is valid, meets the right requirements for the bidding process. And I'm pleased that the Safer Harlow Partnership is set up to do that function. Thank you.
Yep.
Just one part on the antisocial behaviour. Are you with me that residents should be reporting antisocial behaviour, because sometimes they just don't report it, and we need to know where those areas are and if it is greater than we actually think it is?
Yeah, and Councillor Peirce hits the nail on the head around complacency. And we shouldn't have complacency in our communities around some of the work that the police and other partners do. I think there is an element of underreporting that we want to interrogate, and an element of this will be community engagement. What I hope is one of the initiatives, the police try and do this through something called Operation Stronghold, where they will do high visibility patrols on a regular basis and community engagement events. But we're not reaching some of the people that actually we really do need to, that are facing this day to day. Again, I come back to our e-post bag, and at the moment, a particular antisocial behaviour case that is drawing attention of officers and councillors. Day to day, we see these problems in our e-post bag, and I want to address if there is an underreporting issue through the use of this fund. So I think it's a really valid point and something that we need to look at.
Councillor Ellis? Just turn the microphone on.
Sorry. We had the spending review this week, and obviously the Police Federation has come out and said they're not happy about the settlement they've had. Are we worried about the impact that will have on the projects we want to do here? Or are we confident that the money we're putting into this we'll get the results that we want to see out of it? Or has this new settlement and issue with the police going to be damaging that project at all?
I think, again, so these have been really good questions and get to the very heart of what we're trying to do around tackling antisocial behaviour and crime. So one of the reasons why the council took this position around allocating some of its reserve budget to this issue is because we envisaged not just what future government policy would be, but also the big spectre in the room of local government reorganisation and making sure that we as a council continue to focus on those issues that matter most to residents. And so that is informed in the report. You will, as well as I have, scoured the Green Book of the spending review and seen that the government intends, through its, quote, police spending power provision, to use an element of the policing precept to afford the increase in policing numbers. That will be a significant local tax increase, something that was not briefed before to voters or councils, or the Police and Crime Commissioner, who's been very clear how he's disappointed about the funding arrangements going forward. At the end of the day, everyone wants to see a visible response to antisocial behaviour and crime. What they don't want to see is commitments change, alter, and then turn into an additional local tax hike.
Yep.
Just one more question on the hotspots. I know we've seen some good work and success on those before. I just wondered, my sort of intrinsic worry with the hotspot policing is that it pushes crime elsewhere. Is that something we've seen? Or if you tackle it in the most common places, does it tend to help all over the town?
It's absolutely one of the central questions, obviously, our community safety team in constructive challenge with the police asked. You take the Stowe, for example. The reason why those criminal elements were then dispersed to other areas because the police carried out proactive warranting of addresses where there were issues, arrested them, and have taken them through the justice process. What this is about is making sure criminal elements don't escape justice in this town, nor do we disperse it to other parts of our community. This is about a focused response using a fund with maximum impact to deter people from pursuing antisocial behaviour and crime.
Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Charles, Today it was reported that Poundland has gone bust. 200 shops are involved and over 2,500 workers are losing their jobs. One of the main reasons it's gone bust is last year shoplifting accounted for £40 million of items stolen from Poundland, and this has caused the problem. What do we have in place to protect the shops, not only in Harlow Town Centre, but in our hatches as well? Are we aware that this type of shoplifting is going on, and are we ahead of the game?
Thank you, Chair. The answer is yes. Obviously, acquisitive crime is a Safer Harlow Partnership priority. It's a priority for partners across the board, and it touches a whole different element of criminality in the town. We all know in our communities where shop holders have been experiencing significant shoplifting. I have seen it on a regular basis and been shocked by the attitude of these people who are carrying out shoplifting. What I'm pleased about and encouraged by, and I do welcome the work of our new district commander, Jenna Mornington-French, who has, and I don't want to give away the specific tactics they're using, but they are working very closely with retailers, individual shop owners, to tackle this head on. And another aspect to this, if you take the Stowe where we've been doing the Clear Hole Build initiative, the police have been working with shop holders to set up, like we have in the town centre, the link system, so that shop holders can get in touch with the police quickly to identify if there's been a shoplifting incident. I wish I could go further, Councillor Carter, but there is a specific initiative that is making an impact, and it's thanks to our new district commander who's jumped right into the deep end of this issue and is, I think, sending a strong message to those who think it's okay to shoplift in the town.
Thank you for that, Councillor Charles. I'm very pleased to know that you're on side with this, along with the police and the Safer Harlow Partnership, and I'm sure we are safer in your hands than some of the London boroughs. Thank you.
Councillor Leppard.
Thank you, Chair. I don't. This is slightly off topic, but maybe Councillor Charles can give us some information. I read recently, I think it was in your Harlow, that there was a passing out parade of the police in Chelmsford, and these officers were apparently going to be dedicated community policing officers. If that is the case, do you have any insight as to what Harlow might expect from that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There is a drive for neighbourhood policing, specific emphasis on restoring confidence in the community around policing. In fairness, this is a government initiative, albeit, as we've seen in the spending review, the way that they want to pay for it has caused considerable concern. But I was only with the Chief Constable, District Commander last week, patrolling the town centre, where they were deploying some of the neighbourhood policing tactics that they want to do with a wider spread in other communities that form the town. So the priority is to have a more visible presence. I think that this fund complements that.
Councillor Shears.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to know, actually, I'm looking at, under early intervention, it talks about targeted programmes that will look to divert young people away from gang culture and other influences that encourage criminal behaviour. And we are aware that quite often gang culture is around, drugs and, and then you're looking at county lines and stuff, so it progresses. And so I just wondered how involved the schools will be and education will be within those areas.
Thank you, Chair. Very good point again. We have been in intensive conversations with Vic Goddard. You will not be surprised, and I know a number of councillors cross-party have had meetings with Vic Goddard around some of the concerns that young students are facing in his particular catchment. More broadly, one of the Safer Harlow Partnership partners is Rainbow Services, and a number of us again attended a very good session on county lines in the Playhouse. They also do some intensive work with young people that may be susceptible to criminal networks. And so we will be obviously taking their advice. The voluntary and community sector will be fundamental in this process. I just want to reassure you of that. We would encourage other senior education leaders in the town to engage in this process. Obviously, the Education Authority is involved with the Safer Harlow Partnership, but I think the model for this is what Vic Goddard has done, being quite frank with us about the realities that his students are facing and how we've got to resolve those issues for our young people and give them confidence as well.
Any further questions on this? I'm very conscious we've got a packed agenda to get through, but Councillor Edwards?
Just wonder, what's the rationale for, on page 12, paragraph 5, the £3,000 per project?
You're talking about paragraph 5 on page 12, yeah? That's the existing allocation of funding that the Safer Harlow Partnership is awarded via the PFCC. That is handled through their own governance mechanisms and not the council's.
So are you anticipating that the money that we're putting in, and there will be bids for up to £3,000, as it were, which equates to 26 projects, or?
No, that's an example of the existing funding for a range of projects, which is detailed in the Safer Harlow Partnership's review of the year and the impact that they've achieved and where that money has gone. That is, of course, a specific requirement under their governance for showing value for money, value for taxpayers' money in dealing with the specific priorities that the Safer Harlow Partnership have. So this is on top of that funding that is secured via the PFCC.
So in terms of bidding for this funding, is what are the what's the maximum amount, for example, someone could, is there a maximum amount that people could or organisations could apply for?
So this is a new fund, 80,000 fund. The bids will be assessed based on the 3 themes: early intervention, technology innovation, reducing hotspot areas. As part of that, we are working with the Safer Harlow Partnership to set out the criteria. We're going to work with partners about how we go about doing that and the mechanism for it. But all the bidding process will go under the governance process of the Safer Harlow Partnership that is in place to deal with these sorts of matters. So there will be a ceiling. It hasn't been decided yet, because we also want to entertain bids that cover all 3 of those areas as well. So it could be quite substantial bids coming in.
I think that, sorry, I'm reassured to hear that, in the sense of good £3,000 actually, it's not, I mean, not very much money, as it were. Will you be reporting back to Cabinet the outcome of the discussions that you'll be having about the, about the levels of bid that can be applied for, as it were, at some point?
The communication, because this is going through the Safer Harlow Partnership governments, will go through their board meetings. I'll just give you a quick example of where there will be funding requirements. One of the elements for this is to meet a requirement that Superintendent Stubbs quite clearly articulated to me, that in order to deliver more high visibility patrols, they need quicker access to funding for overtime, so that their officers can go out and do that kind of function. So an element of this funding will be secured for that, because we recognise a priority is visible policing. So that just gives you another indication. But you've got to understand the governance of this will go through their board meetings.
Draw your attention as well to where recommendation C is also about an annual report on the activities of the partnership to Cabinet. As I said, I'm very conscious of time and how much we've got to get through, so I'm going to gently move on to any comments if anyone has anything that hasn't already been covered. No? Councillor Charles, anything you want to wrap up with?
Thank you, Chair. I think this has been an important discussion, and at the end of the day, the fund that we are announcing tonight is all about restoring confidence in our communities and tackling those individuals who want to wage a campaign of antisocial behaviour and crime. And I feel that this funding will help the police and other partners to achieve greater impact in the future.